Evening, guys. So did the Philippines change me as a question? Um, it definitely did. And I had to sort of think about it a bit because, firstly, my wife's mentality is very positive. Um, she's not consumerist. She's not showy. She's not really interested in like you don't see her much on my social media stuff because she's not interested in any of that stuff. She just wants more of a traditional home life. I mean, let's face it. I'm busy working. She's living in the beach house. Who's complaining? Um, but I found not just my wife, but most Filipinos that I've met all seem to be pretty good. I see guys gripe, well, it's the same as the West, and blah, blah, blah. Well, first thing I'll say, depends on the type of woman you meet. I mean, if you marry a bar girl, well, there's probably a few things that have already gone there. I mean, and I don't mean just in the sexual way. I mean, the thing is, people have messed with her mind, whoever got her into it, and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot more to it, which would be exactly the same in the West if you married a girl operating in that same environment. That's just a given. That's a bit of common sense. The same as where a lot of guys look online and they look for people that are available. If the girl's available pretty much all the time, firstly, you're unlikely to be the only person she's speaking to, and secondly, she's probably making a living. If you're sending her money, one of the things I say, why do people send money? You're not married to them. It's not your wife. Their problems are their problems, and not your problems. Because if you can get through that piece, and you're still in contact before you move out, or sorry, go out and visit, and then move out there, it's a good chance that A, she's self-sufficient, and B, she's not a gold digger. She's not a scammer. She's not taking the Michael. Um, but like I said, a lot of that is down to the guys themselves. There's women that sit on there and prey on those guys. I mean, I've got to admit, LinkedIn is riddled with it. I don't even know what they're doing. I mean, I keep getting these people going, "Oh, I'm a beautician. I'm there." I'm like, this is a professional website. What are you bugging me about? A, you're not going to get any money out of me, but B, you're wasting my time. But anyway, from a country perspective, there is a lot of hardship there. There's a lot of poverty there. But you will find people still manage to smile throughout the day. They know they've got hardships. They know they've got problems. They know they've got corruption in the government. They know that life is what it is. But they're also content often in the position they are. Because if you look at it from a Western perspective, we're often being pushed to do the next thing, do better, improve, get, I don't know, get a better job, get a bigger house, get a newer car. We are constantly embedded in this consumerist nonsense that we don't actually need. But one of the major things in divorces is money. So bizarrely, when you take a lot of those problems out of the equation, like the fact is, if you're dirt poor and you know you're dirt poor, you're not going to do too much about it beyond getting through the day, happy that you've got your meals for the day, happy you got through the day, and it's the small things that you appreciate. Whether it's a parent with the kids, a grandparent with the grandkids, um, just having a meeting with friends, simplistic, free stuff that has a higher value, and we used to have a higher value for that. Let's face it, because if you look going back, funny enough, I was watching Katie Hopkins, which is somebody I don't normally watch too much, but she ended up my feed, and then I keep getting her like little short videos, which to be fair, I do watch those now regularly because she saved me watching other stuff for the news. Because she'll just have her snippets of what people are doing, and it saves 20 minutes because she does it in about 30 seconds. But she was on about people going out in the 80s and the 90s socializing, like myself, and she said it herself, to be out nearly every day of the week. That was my upbringing. That was my parents' upbringing. That was generation after generation of life. In the Philippines, people have a lot of social gatherings. There's a lot of fiestas. There's a lot of parties. There's a lot of births. There's a lot of festivities and festivals. The same as Spain. There's a lot of emphasis on the family unit. There's a lot of emphasis on the community. There's a lot of emphasis on being part of something. That's been eroded in many Western places. This is why I do a lot of stuff on YouTube, because when you been there, and I've got to admit, I seen it when I went to the UK. I come from a forces background, so I come from a community. You know, the armed forces is a community, so you function as a community. So my dad was in the army. Most of our friends are military. All the kids are military predominantly, and all our mothers hung around with other mothers in the military. It's a community, and you look after each other, and you're not expecting to get paid for anything. You just do it because you're part of that community. There's, my father had it with a car. He needed his car fixed because we were coming back from Germany, and it had failed the MOT, and it could get an MOT at 8 o'clock in the morning, which meant that we could then go down to drive down to Holland and get across from Holland on the ferry. Mechanic worked all night on the car. He wouldn't take any payment at all because it's an army mechanic. So my dad basically left him, I think it's about 7 or 8 crates of beer. Not little crates, big crates of beer, because he wouldn't take any cash. He just wouldn't do it. So he just went and bought it and just left it in the garage. So when you look around, it's there. That's community. And people find that a bit strange with me because I do a lot of stuff for people for free, but that's how I like things to be. I don't want a reward. If it helps somebody out, that's what's important. Colin was a friend of mine that we haven't actually met. Colin was on a TV show around moving to Spain, and he had some issues. His wife had left him. The business he was setting up failed, and then he started to rebuild his life. So I looked out at him on Facebook and then just tried promoting his stuff for him, simply because I knew the guy had a hard time. It may help, may not help, but this is community. You look after each other. It's not a case of what's in it for me. It may not even help him, but the fact is, if it did, it did. But funny enough, he appreciates it and wants to meet up because he does these tours on ferries. But anyway, in the Philippines, you find there's a lot of community. It's like when I was ill. I mean, when I had dengue, proper ill, could have died ill. The neighbours are bringing fruit. The neighbourhood's burning bonfires and stuff to smoke out all the mosquitoes and stuff so it doesn't spread in the area. There's a sense of looking after each other. There's a sense of what everybody's doing. It's the same as the politics. If you got a bit of a twat, like, I don't know, a late teen that's being a bit of a twat in the neighbourhood, if you speak to if I spoke to my wife, she spoke to her mother, my mother-in-law would speak to their grandmother would speak to the daughter would then speak to her son. It's all diffusion. And I found that the community functioned a lot better that way. I thought it took a lot of the noise out. People were generally just interested in just general stuff. There was no keeping up with the Joneses. There was a desire to be helpful. And the same from a broader spectrum. When you go out and travel, people are helpful. I mean, I remember even going through a rough market areas because Filipinos obviously get scared in some of these areas. They'll tell you it's dangerous down there. But my GP, which is like it's a little bit like a Wiley's Jeep. It cut out. The battery just went whoa, completely dead. And the guys in the community just pushed it to get it started, bump started, and away it went. Where else you get 20 guys at like 10 o'clock at night that come rushing out and just help you out? Here it would be, well, the better call the motorway recovery. That's the mentality is so different. Um, but yeah, I found the people were genuine the majority of the time. I found if they weren't genuine, it's often very often in your face and obvious. I found even when people had some deep problems, they would still smile. I remember during the Typhoon Haiyan, I was at the hardware store buying materials, and I was just talking to the guy because as soon as I come through that door, I'm sure they get sales quotas because I was renovating my apartment, so I was buying a lot of stuff in there. And as soon as I come through that door, you'd see people just come out of nowhere trying to get to be your customer, your customer service for the next 20 minutes because they all spent a lot of money. But the point being is, I just asked him how things were, and he said, "Oh, I think it was Cavite. It was one of the other islands. His entire household was missing. He hadn't heard from them, hadn't because a big typhoon had come in. Um, so he didn't know if any of his family's still alive. Doesn't know anything about the people in the area. They'd lost all communications, and he was just waiting for some annual leave so he could go and see if his family's still alive. At the same time, very positive still, and whatever. But as soon as you asked him how are you, which is a question that people don't bother doing, you could see he was on that verge of um, nearly not a breakdown point, but you could see he could almost start crying. But it was the fact is he probably nobody else asked him, but because I'd known the typhoon had been in, I spent time asking different people how it. Well, I generally do it anyway. I mean, if you know me and know the people around me, they'll tell you. I do ask a lot of people how they are. Um, it's just a genuine interest in people, just make sure they're okay. But from the perspective of being there, it does make you a more positive person. I found it made my perspective on life a lot better. Because where we gripe and complain about trivial small stuff, there it's major stuff and they don't complain. Now don't get me wrong, sometimes I do wish they would complain, but for the majority of things, they find a way through it. They just don't they ain't grumbling about it. What happens is what's it um it's not mañana, they're not putting stuff off. There's just that they may not have the solution, so they don't get frustrated by the fact that they can't fix it. That's, I mean, that's a hard thing, to go through knowing you can't improve, you can't do anything about it. Um, yeah, I'm just thinking of some of the conversations I had with April's uncles and stuff. Because that's the other thing is there is a hierarchy, and the hierarchy is still a very positive thing. I agree with the hierarchy. I agree with the fact that you'll call somebody older than you Kuya, which is like big brother, and Ate, which is a bigger sister. And it's in a lot of cultures. You see it for like Indian cultures and stuff. You still hear auntie and things like that. It's a respect thing. But also, if you have a recognized qualification or job, they will use that title. They will call you, like me, engineer Matt, or they'll call you doctor, whatever, because you earned that title. It's not a negative thing. I think in the West we spend too much time complaining about stuff that it should be appreciated, not disrespected. People learning their career as a doctor, as an engineer, as whatever it is, it's important. They should be celebrated, but not in a hey, let's have a Pride March thing, but more a case of yeah, this is Doctor Matt, this is Doctor this. It's it's a respect thing, and I find a lot of people that haven't got those things are the ones that create the issue around. Oh, you think you're better than us? Moan, moan, moan. It's nothing about that. It clearly identifies who you are. I think a lot of this was inherited through the American Navy, and because there was a long connection with the Navy. So when you have that structure, first engineer, whatever their name is, second engineer, whatever their name, captain, whatever their name is, it becomes very ingrained. And I like it. I think there should be more of that because those sort of things have been earned. And it isn't about, oh, they're better than you or anything like that. It's just to say, that guy's an engineer, that guy's a doctor. And it makes the conversation more interesting when you actually know what people do for a living. But I like that. I like the fact that I found it humbling as well sometimes when you're doing stuff to help people for free, because it may cost me money, but I'm helping others for free. And people actually say this words, well, the words, thank you. Thank you. How often do you hear that these days in the West? Unless they're forced to do it like they're working in a shop. I find Filipinos genuine, and it made me more genuine. It also made me more resilient, simply because out there we went through earthquakes, we went through typhoons, floods, lots of problematic things, and you come out the other side. It's an experience that I do recommend people do because it can make a positive impact. For me, it gave me direction and purpose because the fact is I gained a family moving to the Philippines. Not just my wife, not just my kids, but my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, and then their partners, and then their kids, and then you get all the aunts, the uncles, and everything else. It's a very connected family unit, and I like that. I like that because a lot of it is genuine. A lot of people, when you go there, want to visit you. In the same way, when I went back last time, I made an effort to visit all the right people. Didn't visit everybody, but I visited who I could. Because the problem is, I'd been away when my father-in-law died. So when I went back, I went to see um, his cousins because he was very close with his cousins. Um, but yeah, a lot of people talk about the cost of living because they're saying it's getting expensive. But the problem you've got with cost of living is it's only relevant to where you are. What do I mean? The cost of living's going up everywhere. So when you go, oh my God, it's so expensive here. No, it's so expensive everywhere. Everything's going up. You're not a single entity in this. This is part of globalism. Everything's connected. But it also taught me about the importance of there is no urgency. Because for me, I'm always at 90 miles an hour. I always have been. And being in the Philippines, everything slowed down. Get your visa done. It's done when it's done. Get your driving license sorted. Although to be fair, you can do that. I did that in a day, but that was quite funny because they gave me the wrong license. But things take as long as they take. This is why a lot of people have helpers, because you may have a year. What do they call it? I think because we had nannies for the kids, but you'll have like yayas and almas, and you have house help. But at the same time, a lot of those they're you runners. So if you're needing your documents done, I normally get someone else to do it where I can. I'd rather pay somebody a lot of the time to go and do it because A, I can afford it, but B, it puts money in their pocket and they've earned it. I don't like giving money. Giving money for me is a bad solution to most things because it encourages people to sit on their backside. Um, yeah, I mean, for all the hardships there, I found nearly every day a good day. We developed businesses. We had a very strong team. I think we had about 50 employees at one time. Um, but everybody was positive, even on the bad days. I mean, our call center, it is quite funny because our call center didn't run like everybody else's call center. And I ran it the way I wanted it to be run. So for example, if we have a brownout or what they call a power cut, well, we call it a power cut, they call it a brownout, and I think the Americans call it a brownout. We own the Sari Sari store downstairs, which is like a corner shop. So we'd go and sit under the mango tree and crack open bottles of beer. In the same way, if the sales were down and people are stressed, because the whole ethos of the business was you get 3 sales in a day, you can do what you want. I'm not an 8 hour a day person. I'm not 12 hour a day. Give me 3 sales. That's it. And you get what do you call it? You get paid for every sale. So you want to sit there and do 12 sales, because one of our agents used to do about 15, 20 sales a day. The point being is that money, good for people, but also we had like awards, for best sales of the week. We hired out a resort for a birthday party, just for the summer, I think it was. We got the had a big barbecue and all that sort of stuff. The whole point is the work was crap. I hate sales. I really hate sales. But the thing is, the guys work hard. They take the abuse, but also, even when the sales were bad, we'd just open tandoori in the office and just do shots of tandoori. And if we're having a good sales day, I'd run down to McDonald's and buy everybody food or whatever. We make it a family unit. And for me, that's important. That's why, if you're a close friend of mine, you're family. That's it. Because that's the way I am. I look after everybody around me. And that's an expansion of the way life was for me in the Philippines. It's like I look at my brother-in-laws, and they're fantastic guys. And then you get the extension of their friends as well, and it's all, it's hard to explain. But everyone looks out for each other. Now, don't get me wrong, if it becomes financial, it's very likely that nobody's going to dip their hands in their pockets, because most of them haven't got money to dip in their pockets. They, it's almost like an accepted thing sometimes. I mean, I help people out because I help people out and I can afford to help them out. And I'd actually be more frustrated that people didn't ask for help. I remember a child dying. I can't remember, it was somewhere between 6 and 12 years old. And all they needed was to rehydrate the kid. They didn't have the money for it. I didn't know about the kid until people came knocking, asking for some donations towards the coffin. And that annoyed me, because the fact is, they should have come when they needed help. I'd have helped them. But at the same time, sometimes it's about pride. But once the child was dead, the pride's gone, because they need to bury the child. There's a humbling experience. Just one of many. You will find hard poverty there. You will find people are friendly. You will find there's a lot of islands to explore. You will find being content, happy. But you have to absorb into it, because most of the griping, moaning people I know complain about the noise, this dust, the noise, the dust, neighbours, stupidity of some people, um, the way nothing seems to function properly. Why does it take long to do so? I learned, and it worked in Spain as well. Once I was already into that mode of just waiting, and it'll sort itself out. It's almost like you become like somebody who sits and smokes weed all day because you become unaffected by the noise and nonsense that's going on. So when you get fiestas where the music is like vibrating the windows on two sides of the house with different music, your eyeballs feel like they're doing that inside your head. I just made sure I was working away. After the first one, I just worked away because, I mean, the thing is, the music's so loud. Yeah, it's over a mile and a half away. Yeah, I mean, some of those people must walk away, not here for 2 weeks. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it'd be an experience that would change them. From a financial standpoint, you can live at different levels. And like I said, my wife was she's quite content at whatever level we're living at. She never complains about finances, she never complains about, um, why haven't we got this or got that? She's always happy with whatever we got because she knows I work hard for what we've got and she appreciates that. But the fact is, when people say, "Oh, you can't live here for this," it's like nonsense. Of course you can. And there's enough YouTube channels out there that you will counteract anything anybody says. I've lived in the Philippines where I spent a lot of money in a day, and people even on this channel will say, "No, nobody would pay that. Nobody would pay that." Yes, I have. And then I don't know if the restaurant's still there, but even that, you'll get people saying, "No, that's nonsense." Da da da. And then you send them to the website for just for the restaurant, and then they see the menu, and go, "Geez, I wouldn't pay that." It's like, I didn't say you did. I do, because when I've got the cash, I like to spend it. You probably know in the channel, I like restaurants. I like spending time and money on my wife. We like to go to restaurants. She's a proper foodie. She loves cooking and everything else. So I like to take her to good restaurants because for her, it's more of a thing than me. Because I just like the taste of food, and I don't most of the food I won't know what I'm eating. I just order and just try things. Oh, that's nice. That my wife knows what's in it, and to be fair, we do sit and talk about what flavors are in there, um, but there's everything in the Philippines. If you haven't got money, as Jay says in this channel, you get a lot of like the meat from the market and freeze it and cook it as and when. You can live at whatever level you can afford in the Philippines. Because let's face it, there's a lot of poor in the Philippines. If they couldn't survive on $1 a day, because the reason I say $1 a day, because the thing we have in our family, which is $1 for a hero, which is a song, if you know where it comes from. If they can't survive on, say, 100 pesos a day, you may struggle at that level because your dietary has changed. But I've been in the Philippines when I first went there, and I was limiting my expenditure. Near the end of our road is, I think it's Abalanosa. They basically do a chicken and rice. I can't remember how much it is, but it's not expensive. But that will last 2 days, because you just get the rice, break the chicken up into the rice, soy sauce, and that's it. And I lived like that for a few months, when I was keeping my money back because I didn't know where I was going at the time. I needed to generate income. I needed to work out where I was. So I kept the daily costs down. And that's reality. You can be humbled as well as humble. In the same way, you can learn to manage your money better because you have to. There is no safety nets. Nobody looks after me. There is no safety net for anybody beyond me. So if I die tomorrow, my wife, the mortgage will get paid. There's some money I'm building up, but ideally I want to get to a point there's enough funds there that my wife and my kids will never have to work. But even that, it'll be managed by my wife, and my kids will still have to work because, quite simply, it's more about development. So I've got to admit, I can see my son and his best mate becoming real estate agents in Spain. You know, because I can see them working together because they're very, very clicky best mates. And my son's best mate's dad is already a real estate agent. Um, but the point being is, for me, I had to be very thoughtful of risks, you know, disease, illnesses, death, because I've experienced all of them. You know, when I got dengue nearly killed me. Dengue took me out of the game completely. I didn't know I had a dengue, but I got up the one morning, because I couldn't cross the room. That's how ill I was. Because I'd pass out, like getting out of bed. I'd pass out on the floor. But there was a problem with the internet, and like, heads full of fog, and I remember it well. Heads full of fog, and you know when you can't focus, and you think, and the internet was on an antenna, so it's on this transponder that goes on the top of a big post, and you turn the post to get a better signal. So I've gone outside to turn the post, and my mother-in-law notices I look like I'm dead. You know, I was whiter than white, like translucent almost. And that's when she knew it was dengue. She knew it was, and it's a weird thing when there's people sitting at your bottom of your bed crying, thinking you're dying. it's it's like a surreal moment, but that's how close our family unit is. You know, it's. I know some of you guys might say, "Oh, well, that's the money dying." No, it's much deeper than that, guys. Because I've always looked after my in-laws. I've always looked after, you know, I've always looked after the people that matter the most where I can. So that was a weird experience, and it was yeah, it's been some very, very family moments. But anyway, I'm going to switch off now because I don't want to drift off into too many of the family moments. But also, you get the picture. If you're miserable, sad, depressed, it may not be for you, because you can only be happy where you are. With what I mean is, if you're suffering with that depression and everything else, those dark things that are holding you back, moving to another country is not going to fix those. Moving to a new country for me it was a bit of my life was missing, because before 1989 I'd always lived overseas because my family were ex-forces. I moved to the UK. You know, went through the last couple of years of school, went into the work environment. It wasn't a nice, and I just didn't click here. It just isn't my space. I missed that travel. I missed the connection with people, and here I find it wasn't me. Well, sorry, it is me. It's me in the UK. But when I go to Spain, connections there. Go to the Middle East, connections are there. Go to Asia, connections are there. Something's happened to some of the Western countries, which is not good. So for me, I have to admit, I can see it, I understand it, but I do think that visiting the Philippines, or if you're retired, going out to the Philippines for a couple of months of the year, like now that the winter fuel allowance has been cancelled in the UK for the elderly, or shall we call it, not elderly, refined characters, I would recommend going out to the Philippines. I'd recommend just going out there, experience it, taking it for what it is, and just enjoying it. You will get good moments, bad moments, and everything in between, but that's what life is. And I felt alive in the Philippines. I don't feel alive in the UK. Riding my motorbike, love it in the Philippines. Love it. 2 o'clock in the morning, hammering down with rain, absolutely soaking wet, loving it. Yeah. Philippines is home. Spain is home. Spain's home with more restrictions. Philippines, you can do a lot more. But anyway, let's kill this video. Thanks for watching.